Hello and welcome to Vakra Swag, a platform where you get to meet some extraordinary people that you actually won't meet anywhere else.
For all those who've been asking us what Vakra means, it's actually a Punjabi term that means different. Swag is swag. And appropriately enough, this time we're going to Punjab with Vakra Swag and speaking to some women of substance, some women who are leading the farmers' protest. It's also made it to the Times Magazine cover, the latest cover. But we've got two fascinating women who are going to tell us what it means for them, what it means for women across the country as they stand in support of the men who are protesting, who've been protesting for months, Manika, now.
Absolutely. You'll get to meet Samita and Kiran, and they'll tell you why the farmers' agitation is just not for the farmers, but for all of us. Let's meet these two amazing women. Samita and Kiran, a very, very warm welcome to Vakra Swag. Really, when Jyotsna and I thought of starting this podcast and this platform, you were the kind of people and you were the kind of voices we really wanted to bring to the forefront. People, literally who are putting their might, their strength, whatever they can do behind causes that they feel deserve our support. But let me just first start by asking you, and either of you can respond, is that currently the media gaze has shifted away from the farmers' agitation. The stories have died down. There's hardly any news reports. Do you think that the farmers' movement will die down simply because there is now no attention being given to it, at least in the public space?
All right. Samita, would you like to go first?
No, I think you go first. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Actually, Manika, I think the very fact that we are assuming that this thing will die down, this whole agitation will die down, I don't see this happening. In fact, I have been on the ground and I have been there talking to people, and Samita has also been very much into it. And we, for one, if I can also add, Samita, I think we believe that this movement is there to stay. And although the national television is not giving them their due credit or whatever we might say, but we have a lot of, I would say, small channels, the YouTube channels and the other, houses which are doing a yeoman's job on ground. And in addition to that, the way I have seen it in Punjab, I've been traveling around, and I find that the movement is actually growing, and I don't see signs of dying down. Also, given the fact that a lot of people from the trade unions, then from the Dalit Samaj, the Dalit societies, then women societies are actually joining in the whole process. So for one, I believe it's going to be a very difficult task for this movement to die down. And even if it continues till say 2024, I think the momentum is going to gain strength, even though it is not visible. One can, it's just like you can shut your eyes and pretend it doesn't exist, but it does. It does. And anyone who has been there on the borders and been looking at some of the Mahapanchayats, I, for one, certainly believe it's a way which is difficult to sort of, mow down so easily. And that's what the national media is trying to do, unfortunately. Yeah.
But
Right.
Samita, isn't visibility very important for this cause, for any cause?
Visibility is important, but then you see the feeling, the word of mouth, the people getting together, that is also very important. Initially, when it began, it was just Punjab, right? And Haryana. But now, if you see, it's all over. With the arrest of Disha Ravi, it has now changed from just a farmers' movement to a women's movement also. The Dalits movement with Nodeep or Shiv Kumar, who were Dalits, and they were tortured. They were terribly tortured over there. So it's not just about the farmers, because everything in the farming sector is linked to so many other things. Like there are women farmers, there are Dalits over there. So it has rather the government tried to make it a communal thing, but it has due to their own shortcomings or due to their own using of their they had used a lot of force. So with that, it has become more of a national movement, and it's going to increase. I totally agree with Kiran that this is going to be a long haul, and just like the freedom movement. It's going because this touches a chord with every human being. You see, because we are a minority in our own self. Women are the biggest minority in the world, the largest minority, and we face it each and every day, no matter what we say, no matter where we are born, no matter what circumstances we've grown up in. But you do see that slight we do see that that the women are discriminated at every point of time. And here, when the Supreme Court said, why are the women kept over here? They should be sent away. So that was a very bad thing to say. It gave a bad signal. And this is what it brought the women back to this movement.
So
It grew stronger.
in a sense, is it also movement of empowerment for the women, especially when it comes to North India and the kind of patriarchal setups, Haryana, Punjab, is it more of that as well now?
It is because you see, we can say Punjab, all right, patriarchy is there, but when you see individual households, it's the matriarch who rules. Everybody gives a lot of thought and respect to the matriarch's decision. So it is basically her. So which goes on. So when initially Kangana attacked this elderly lady, so everyone stood up for her. The reason was that nobody can see that happening. So because an elderly lady is really respected in Punjab. I mean, if you belong to a particular village, supposing I belong to so and so village, and and anybody says something to me, so that means that I'm their sister. If they will not hear that, so you see, so it's a bigger thing than what it started off with.
No, and you're right, because it's interesting that so many of the faces that have come out of this agitation are women. You spoke about Disha Ravi, you spoke about Navdeep Kaur, and it is so interesting that there is so much evidence of women farmers who have now said that yes, we look after the homes and we will do all that, but we need to be counted and we need to stand with our men and for this cause, because it is our lives as well. Tell us some of your experiences with these women farmers, with these women activists.
You see, the women have been actively involved in farming from a very long time. You see, when they look after the cattle at home, they are involved in it. So there's so much other things like the wheat, the crops. Earlier, in Punjab, there used to be a special holiday during the harvesting because everybody used to be involved in harvesting. So it changed with time. The land holdings have changed, but I have in my own childhood have seen women farming, going to farms with their tractors, well-to-do family in my area itself. I mean, there are two such people I actually know who have been doing this. And recently I asked her, and nobody stopped you. So she said, nobody stops you for a good cause. So if you're doing something, if it's empowering you and your family, why would anybody stop you?
But Kiran, is it something, is it like a default mechanism that kicked in with Punjab. Every family has one member who's gone abroad. Now more and more of them are going abroad. Is it somewhat they had no choice but to till the land in a way and then handle the debts that have been left behind?
Yes, to a point, I would say that. You see, what has happened, we need to look at this in the total global macroeconomic dimension as well. So after the structural adjustment and the imposition of certain trade regulations, etc., by the World Trade Organizations, in India also we saw the move towards liberalization in 1991. And it's very strange in many ways that this is the time, if you look at the period between 95 and now, the highest number of suicide deaths have actually taken place during this time, more than 300,000. There are records from the National Crime Bureau that this is the time period where maximum suicide deaths have actually taken place. Now, what has happened in Punjab is one of the reasons, again, 86% of the total land holdings are very small. And the Punjab farmer obviously is no different from rest of the country. Here also the land holdings, a majority of them happen to be small hand holdings. So you have about 3 hectares or 4 hectares or something like that. And with the coming of liberalization, the idea was to open up the markets, and a lot of subsidies were gradually withdrawn. And the second thing is, we also know that other than Punjab and Haryana, which is about say 6% of the farmers getting the minimum support price, and over a period of time, the support price, which was supposed to be given for 23 items, went down to only 2 items, wheat and rice. And that is why the diversification could not take place. And also coupled with the fact that in competitive markets, people are competing with one another, and job itself, over a period of time, they have seen a decline. Much as we would like to say that privatization brought a lot of opportunities, a lot of jobs, but a lot of them were underpaid. And then in Punjab also, one of the things was this fascination with going abroad has always been there. Even if you go about 150 years back, of course, the propelling factors would have been different, the independence struggle. But this kind of going to, other lands and creating a niche for yourself has always been there. But in a way, liberalization has actually pushed the families towards sending at least one child abroad because of the debt issues. So the bank started giving you, at a point of time, the banks would only give you debt which was equivalent to the value of your land. So you could somehow tide over the debt. But with liberalization of the banking sector, particularly the persons concerned could get bigger debts. And second was the reduction of subsidies gradually, and the increasing cost of everything. Look at petroleum products now. So the cost or the burden of farming has increased megafold, and the minimum support price has not really increased. And as a result, it is no more viable to just get your incomes from farm itself. So one child from every family has gone abroad. One reason is people have sold their land, or they've given, they have a mortgage on land. So the idea is obviously to one is the debt release, which is a very big thing. And second, of course, more lucrative options in countries like Canada, where you are getting, your wage parity is there. So in India, for example, we do have the Wages Act. And one of the reasons why Nowdeep was actually, there in Kundali border, their organization was actually running a struggle to get the wages released while for this lockdown period and beyond. So Wage Act, even though we have, it is not implemented properly. So if a person works here for 12 hours, you get peanuts, but the same amount when you're working there, I know people within 2 or 3 years, they have been able to ward off the debt. So this is one of the, I would say, prime factors which has impacted people in Punjab going abroad. And now there is a trend which is catching on, even in Haryana, even in parts of Western Uttar Pradesh and so on. Yeah.
Right. And what has also been very interesting, I thought, about this entire agitation was that it was not just men and women, but there were celebrities from Punjab. Of course, there was global support that came later, but typically the Punjabi film industry or stars like Daljit Dosanjh, who've come from Punjab, they were very open and still being very vocal about their support. Something that one doesn't see in Bollywood at large. Of course, there are some people there as well. So where do you think and I wanted to ask this of where does that courage come from? I think not. I mean,
This,
look at the two of you. I think at a larger thing, where does that courage come from?
I'll tell you what, this comes from a long history. So once it happened that somebody asked a poet that can you can you criticize Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who was a very powerful Maharaja at that time? So can you call him um, Anna, because he had one eye, right?
Yeah.
So, so he said, "Of course, I will be able to say that." And sir, how will you? So he quoted this. He recited this. He said, "Teri ikko akh sulakhni, tenu chuk chuk karan dove akha wale, tenu chuk chuk karan salam." So it meant that your one eye is better than the two-eyed people, and all two-eyed people bow down to you. So Maharaja Ranjit Singh was so happy with him. He really awarded him with priceless things. So this has always been appreciated. If you go to the villages, a long time back, there was a community called Marasis and Nakliyas and other people. So with their nice, wit and songs, they would criticize even the so-called the zamidar or the sardars. They would appreciate, and they were told, okay, you cannot argue with them because they are going to say something and you're going to be tongue-tied. So this has been a part of our culture. So this
Right.
has been a part of our culture.
No,
Yeah.
it's interesting, but I'm saying that in the current atmosphere, which is
Yeah.
not very appreciative of humor or sarcasm or criticism, to say the least. I mean, look at what happened to Disha Ravi. Look at what happened to Navdeep. Is uh, in that ecosystem, there are still people and sort of everyday people who and or celebrities from that part of the world who's still coming out and saying we support our farmers. Kiran, how is it that this is that one cause that they have found so much passion within, that they're saying, okay, we know what's happening, but we'll still stay with it?
Is it Kiran? Is it what differentiates it? Is it the community coming together? I think is what we want to. I mean, we've seen Shaheen Bagh as well, Manika, but I think the kind of community feeling that we've got at Singhu border was completely different.
Absolutely. I mean, it is definitely one part of it is the community coming together to support one another. I mean, that kind of a resonance or that kind of an attachment with the community in which one is born to is perhaps natural to a point. I would say that perhaps natural to a point. But having said that, I think one of the things which brought everybody together, I mean, the celebrities, the Punjabi celebrities, or even some few celebrities like Taapsee Pannu, for example, who faced a IT raid yesterday, probably. And one of the common factors is that most people from Punjab, they have roots attached to the land. So wherever we are, wherever we go, we never, ever, ever leave that land. It's a part of us. It's a part of our heart. It's a part of our soul. We might no longer own it, but we still have that kind of ancestral attachment to it. And the second,
Absolutely.
which comes from, is the fact that a lot of us belong to the armed forces. Myself, the entire family, 3 generations from the army, and still continuing. So, I mean, that kind of you can say that kind of a courage or that kind of a attachment to a cause, the army also gives you that. It builds that discipline and that passion into you. And the fact that then it gets, I mean, either you are a Jawan or a Kisan, mostly. I won't say completely, but mostly. So somebody in your family has those affiliations and the roots, and whether you go to the US or you go to Canada, you are unlikely to forget them. And I've stayed abroad for a very long time. And I was just mentioning that my husband is a Romanian, but I have still not been able to leave my roots here. It's very hard. And I was in Romania when the whole thing started here. And I'm telling you that I was stuck to, I mean, my soul was here. Somehow it was here. And at that point of time, it was perhaps, I did not give too much of importance to the community part of it, but mostly I was worried about the land issue, the land part of it. Even though my family, my father does not have land, but my complete paternal and maternal extended families, they have land. And this is the story of, I would say, a majority of people from Punjab. So that is how, I mean, even if we are not attached, we will certainly want to be speaking up about it. And even, for example, if I say, not only the community, even if you look at other celebs, for example, Swara Bhaskar, she comes from Air Force background. So some kind of background from the armed forces, from the farming communities. And right now at the space where we are, it's not so much about community, because when I was at Singhu border, I felt the same for people. I mean, and they felt, not only me, I felt the bonds between people from Haryana, Punjab, and the Muslim women from Mewat were coming and visiting. Beautiful. It was such a fantastic observation, and I was very emotional about it. So the this movement has actually, I think, the divides which were coming between communities, I think instead of polarizing, it is actually uniting, and that is one of the very beautiful things which goes beyond just one community. So that's what I feel.
I think we just can't
I'd like to add,
underestimate the importance of that these days. But Samita, away from all the celebrities and their voices, tell us, what is it like for the ordinary women there on a day-to-day basis, surrounded by, I would say, a sea of elderly men. More than the younger men, it's the elderly men who are out on the ground, who are still hanging on to what they believe in. So what's it like for a woman there?
women at the camps and all.
Yes, at the protest
So
site.
I think they are equally participating. They are doing the seva. Seva is the crux that is binding them together. So women have actively always been strong supporters. So they are doing their work with wholeheartedly. They've left their homes and they are there. And if they wouldn't have been there, it would have been a different story. But they are there, and that is the reason why it has brought stability to the movement.
Explain what you mean when you say it'll be a different story, because that's very interesting that you say that.
Because when there is only one kind of people, supposing only the youngsters would have been there, like just now it was mentioned that the elderly are there, the women are there. So when there is a mixture of everyone together, that shows the solidarity. That shows how these so-called reform bills are not correct. It has to, everybody is united in it. We want a solution to it, and it's not that one part of the society is saying it's wrong. And that's the reason why the government has not been able uh, to deter this movement, because they tried very hard. They gave it a communal color. They didn't succeed in it. Farming is something which is world over. How do you change that? Farmers are everywhere. Without farming, I mean, the life doesn't go. It's the first segment of an economic cycle. It starts from there. So how if the farmer is unhappy, farmer is a consumer as well as the creator. So if the farmer cannot earn anymore, if you are creating a disparity in the farming sector, if they become economically weak, then the whole economic cycle is going to come to a stop. Who's going to purchase the goods? So so everybody, it's common sense. People understand that.
Right. But tell me, so, we've hit March, it's almost been a year, vaccinations are now happening. Like we spoke, the fact that the media is not covering it like it should consistently. Where do you guys go from here? What happens now? How do you sort of ensure that it stays on track, the movement stays strong? What happens now?
See, the union guys, the Kisan Ekta Morcha people, they have come to a very good strategy now, that they've started the Mahapanchayats. Mahapanchayats make a lot of sense because it's not at one place, the Delhi border. It's going to be held in every district wherever they can go. They are planning to go to Bengal. They are planning in other places. It's been very successful in Rajasthan. It's been very successful in UP. Of course, Punjab, Haryana, it was successful. So when there is a national color to it, when a national awareness is going to be there, so it's something. It's a very good step. I personally feel it's a very good step when you involve so many people in it and people are being aware of it. As far as Punjab is concerned, there's not much of the zamidari or much of that, the caste system in Punjab. We really don't have that in Punjab. But in places like UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, this is very much prevalent. People are people when you hear even your domestic servants talking about it, so you get to know that there is a lot that is happening over there. The reason for the migration towards Chandigarh, Punjab, and other areas of India is because of that. So they are scared to even speak out. But once when the Mahapanchayats go there, when they are told that somebody is standing by you, then I think it will definitely take a national, it will be a national movement, which they are trying to do. When India could get freedom from the British, so these are our own people. We can always, they'll have to listen to us.
Absolutely, and more power to you. Before we go, our time's coming to an end. Kiran, very shortly, tell us if there was one thing, one message that you could give to all the women out there, and pretty much everybody out there. It's Women's Day today. What would you say?
Well, I would definitely tell women that they must be, they must relate to the people on the ground, the women, especially the women folk there. I mean, their level of awareness and their courage and their, the spirit of support is enormous. And we, people sitting in our cocoons, I would say we have to come out of them and we have to support those people. And it's not only for them. It's not that this is their fight. It is our fight too. If we want our freedom of speech and expression to stay alive, if we want our democratic values to survive, if we want women's empowerment, because all these things have a very detrimental impact on women empowerment. I mean, what happened to Disha Ravi is also one part of the story, and what happened to Nodeep also. I mean, this kind of molestation and brutality with her in jail, it could happen to any one of us. I mean, and there is a very strong message which these women, I mean, they are a force to reckon with. They might be silent warriors, they might not be visible as strongly as the men folk, but I have to say this, that they have emerged as a force to reckon with. And they are sort of redefining this gender equations completely. So we are, if this movement really builds up further with the help of all of us here today. I mean, four of us are here right away. I believe for one, and you can call me a bit more than optimistic. I think it might lead to an egalitarian setup in our country, which has not been there for ages and ages, and we didn't even expect it to happen. So the caste divides are going, the man and women, the gender divides, I have seen with my own eyes happening at this border which I visited. And since I'm in Punjab, I know that women are taking care of the fields while the men folk are away. I have been to many tolls where women leaders are standing and they are speaking about the farm laws like nobody does. I mean, not even a person who has studied the farm laws in a closed cabin like this one here would have that understanding which these women have on ground. So I really salute their spirit. I salute their tenacity, and I wish that we stand behind them and we give them that support so that this movement actually opens vistas which are really, I would say, positive for this nation, and they have much, I would say, an impact which is beyond just the farm laws. So with these words, I think more power to the women, and especially the women farmers.
Absolutely, absolutely, Kiran. Women of Punjab, Manika, leading from the front. And I think there are lots and lots of women in this country who are watching exactly what is going on with the women and the farmers' protests. I think in an environment like today, to be fearless and to keep speaking, to keep protesting, I think we all need to set that example. And Samita and Kiran, thank you so much both for joining us. It's been a fabulous, fabulous conversation. And as you said, more power to you, more power to the protests, and keep the momentum going. And you may think you don't have visibility, but I think Manika, people are still watching and people are still hoping that it goes the whole hog. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manika. Thank you very much, Jyotsna. Really a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.